He was just a poor waiter with barely enough to feed himself. But one rainy night, he shared his only meal with two starving orphans. He never saw them again, until 20 years later, when a helicopter landed in front of his tiny house. And what happened next left the whole neighborhood speechless. Before diving into the story, comment where you're watching from, and don't forget to subscribe so you won't miss the latest stories. It was a cold, rainy night. The kind that makes people rush indoors, holding their jackets tight, avoiding puddles and strangers alike. Wind lashed against the windows, and the streets glistened under flickering streetlights. Most of the town was already tucked away in the warmth of their homes. But not everyone had a home. Inside a small, dimly lit diner on the edge of town, Malik moved slowly from table to table, wiping down the surfaces for what felt like the 100th time. The bell over the door hadn't rung in over an hour. Business was dead. Who would want to eat out on a night like this? Malik was exhausted. He'd worked a double shift covering for a sick coworker, and his feet ached. His stomach growled, but he ignored it. All he had to eat was a cold plate of fries and half a grilled cheese sandwich left over from an order someone canceled hours ago. He placed it carefully on a plate and sat at the counter. Just as he picked it up, ready to take his first bite, the bell over the door finally rang. He turned. A bit startled. Two children stood in the doorway, soaked to the bone. Their hair was plastered to their foreheads, their thin shirts clung to their small frames, and their bare feet left watery prints on the tile. The older one, a boy around 10, stood in front of a younger girl, maybe 5. Both were shivering. For a moment, no one spoke. Malik slowly stood up, placing his dinner back on the counter. He could see their eyes darting around the diner, wide and frightened. The boy's lip trembled as he tried to speak. We haven't eaten in 2 days, the boy murmured. We're sorry. We just wanted to be warm. Malik's heart sank. He had seen tough times, grew up in a rough neighborhood himself. But this was different. These weren't teens looking for trouble. These were kids, alone, desperate. He looked down at the plate of fries and sandwich, then back at the children. Without hesitation, he picked up the plate and walked over. Here, he said softly, kneeling to their level. You need this more than I do. The boy blinked in disbelief, unsure whether to trust him. The little girl reached for a fry, then paused, as if afraid someone might snatch it away. Malik gently nodded. Go ahead. They sat in a booth near the heater, devouring the food like they hadn't seen a meal in weeks. Malik fetched them cups of warm water and grabbed an extra apron from the back for the little girl to use as a blanket. He didn't ask where they came from. Not yet. First, he wanted them safe, warm, fed. While they ate, he called his manager, an older woman named Denise, and explained the situation. They're just babies, Malik said. We can't kick them out into that weather. Denise sighed. Let them stay till closing. I'll call someone from the shelter. Malik returned to the booth and sat across from them. What's your name? He asked. I'm Jamal. The boy said, wiping his mouth. This is my sister, Nia. Where are your parents? Jamal's face darkened. He looked away. Mom's gone. Dad left months ago. We've been staying in an abandoned house, but it's leaking bad now. Malik felt a lump in his throat. He glanced at Nia, now curled up on the seat, finally calm. You're safe now, he said quietly. I promise. That night, the diner stayed open an extra hour. Denise arrived with a woman from a local shelter, and they arranged a temporary place for the children to stay. Malik helped them into dry clothes from the lost and found bin and gave Nia his own jacket before they left. Before stepping out, Jamal turned to him. Thank you, he said. Nobody's ever done something like that for us. Malik smiled, placing a hand on his shoulder. Just take care of your sister. That's what matters. The children disappeared into the rain, but the warmth they left behind lingered. In the diner far longer than the chill ever could. Malik didn't know it then. But that one small act of kindness, giving away his dinner, would echo far into the future. One day, it would come back to him in the most unexpected way. Malik sat across from the two children as they quietly ate, their small hands clutching fries and sandwich pieces like they were holding on to life itself. Steam rose from the plate, fogging the window beside them. Rain still lashed against the glass, but the storm outside was nothing compared to the one these kids had been through. He didn't rush them. Instead, he leaned back and asked questions with the gentle patience of someone who knew what it was like to be lost in the world. What are your names? He asked softly, The older one looked up first, a girl with sharp eyes that had clearly seen too much. "I'm Lena," she said cautiously, then nodded toward the younger boy. "That's my brother, Kai." Kai looked up, cheeks full, and gave the smallest of waves before going right back to eating. Malik smiled. "Lena and Kai, nice to meet you." As they chewed, they began to talk, slowly at first, like they were unsure whether to trust this kind stranger. But Malik had a way of making people feel safe, like his kindness wasn't temporary or conditional. It just was. Eventually, Lena told him everything. Their parents had died in a car crash almost a year ago. They'd been placed in a state-run orphanage with too many kids and too few caregivers. The rooms were cramped, the food was scarce, and no one paid attention unless someone got into trouble. After a particularly rough night, Lena made a decision. She grabbed Kai's hand, snuck out a broken side gate, and never looked back. "We thought it would be better out here," she said, her voice cracking. "But it's not." Malik listened, his heart breaking with every word. He had once been a foster kid himself, bounced between homes, never really belonging. But even then, he'd had shoes, a warm coat, a place to sleep. These two had nothing but each other. Once they finished eating, Malik quietly slipped into the back room, counted the few crumpled dollar bills he had earned in tips that night, and left the rest in the register. It wasn't much, but it was enough for a few things that he ran across to the convenience store next door. The rain soaked through his hoodie instantly, but he didn't care. Inside, he grabbed a pair of warm socks for each of them and 2 paper cups of hot cocoa. He returned a few minutes later, shivering but smiling, and handed the drinks to the kids that Kai's eyes lit up at the first sip. "It's sweet," he gasped. "Yeah," Malik chuckled. "That's how it's supposed to be." He knelt down again and helped them put the socks on. They were a few sizes too big, but they were dry and warm. Malik knew he couldn't take them home. His apartment was barely big enough for himself, but he could still help that he walked into the back one last time, rummaged through his locker, and pulled out his old raincoat, the one with a ripped pocket and faded blue color. It wasn't pretty, but it worked. He wrapped it gently around Lena's shoulders, pulling the hood over her head. Then he wrote down the address of a nearby shelter he knew, a decent one that helped kids, run by a no-nonsense woman named Mrs. Alvarez who didn't turn anyone away. He handed Lena the paper. "Go there," he said. "Tell them Malik sent you." She looked at him, confused. "Why are you helping us?" Malik paused, then said, "Because someone once helped me when I didn't think anyone would. And now it's my turn." Lena nodded, her eyes wet. She pulled Kai into a hug, then turned to Malik. She didn't say another word, just wrapped her arms around him tightly. Malik hugged them both, closing his eyes for a moment. He didn't want to let go, but he did. And just like that, they were gone, stepping back into the rainy night, their small figures disappearing down the sidewalk like shadows swallowed by fog. Malik stood by the door long after they left, watching the rain pour down harder than before. A strange ache settled in his chest. He didn't know where they would end up, or if the shelter would even have room. He just hoped they'd make it. He never saw them again. But some nights, when the rain hits the windows just right, Malik swears he can still see them, too. Silhouettes in the storm, walking hand in hand, heading towards something better. Life didn't get easier for Malik. If anything, it got harder. He never landed a dream job or made it out of the service industry. He bounced between diners, coffee shops, and roadside joints, the kind of places with cracked linoleum floors and blinking neon signs. The hours were long, the tips unreliable, but he showed up every single day with a clean apron and a gentle smile that he never asked for much. Just enough to pay rent on his tiny one-bedroom house, cover groceries, and keep the lights on. Even so, Malik always gave when he could. A hot sandwich for the homeless man who slept near the bus stop. Spare change for kids selling candy on the street corner. A ride home for a tired co-worker walking in the rain. His motto was simple and unwavering. Kindness costs nothing, but means everything. He never bragged about what he did, never posted on social media or sought thanks. And he never told a soul about Lena and Kai. To him, that night was a quiet moment of decency, not a grand story worth retelling, just something any good person should do. But the truth was, that small act had left a permanent imprint on his heart. Even as the years ticked by, he found himself glancing toward the diner door during storms, half hoping to see two familiar kids walking again. Older now. Maybe, but with the same eyes. They never came. Time moved on. His hair turned gray, then white. His hands, once steady and swift, grew stiff and slow from years of carrying plates and scrubbing counters. His back ached more than it didn't, and some days, he limped slightly to work without mentioning it. The town he'd once known so well barely noticed him anymore. The people changed. New shops replaced old ones. The regulars stopped coming in. The ones who remembered his name were few and far between. That he never married, never had children of his own. He spent evenings with books, reruns, and a little radio that played soft jazz. His home was small but tidy. Just him, a few potted plants, and the echo of memories. And then, one morning, everything changed. It was a Tuesday, like any other. Malik woke up early, brushed his teeth, and brewed a small pot of coffee. He checked the mail, expecting the usual stack of flyers and bills. But today, there was a letter. A thick, cream-colored envelope with no return address. Just his name in bold, neat handwriting. Mr. Malik Johnson. Curious, he opened it slowly. Inside was a handwritten note, and something else, a plain ticket. He read the letter once, then again, and then tears began to fall. Dear Malik, you may not remember us. It was many years ago, on a rainy night, in a small diner on the edge of town. You gave us your dinner, your coat, your kindness, when we had nothing. You didn't ask for anything in return. You probably thought we disappeared forever. But we never forgot you. Because of you, we made it to that shelter. Because of you, we were taken in by a kind woman who gave us a second chance. We were adopted a few months later by a wonderful family who helped us go to school, get therapy, and heal. Today, I'm Lena Rivera, a social worker who helps runaway children. My brother Kai is an architect, designing affordable housing in inner cities. We've built a life full of hope, and it started with you. We want to thank you properly. Enclosed is a plane ticket. We'd like you to come visit us in Chicago for a few days. Everything will be taken care of, hotel, meals, all of it. You gave us warmth when we were cold. Now, we want to return the favor. With all our love and gratitude. Lena and Kai. Malik sat at his kitchen table, staring at the ticket through blurred eyes. He couldn't speak, couldn't move. His heart felt full, fuller than it had in years. He had spent so long thinking his life had been small, unnoticed. But that one act, it had rippled through time like a quiet miracle. A few weeks later, Malik boarded a plane for the very first time. As the flight lifted off the ground, he smiled. To himself, kindness costs nothing, but means everything. And now, it was coming back to him. In ways he never imagined. It was a sunny Saturday morning. The kind Malik loved most. Warm rays of sunlight bathed his tiny front yard as he hummed a soft tune and watered his modest garden. The marigolds were blooming, and his tomato plants were finally showing signs of fruit. It was one of those peaceful mornings when the world felt still and kind. Until the noise started. The deep, rhythmic thumping echoed across the sky. Malik paused, squinting upward. The sound grew louder, a low roar that rattled windows and sent birds scattering. Confused, he wiped his hands on his pants and stepped out. Toward the gate, across the street, neighbors emerged from their homes, shading their eyes and murmuring among themselves. A sleek black helicopter appeared overhead, circling slowly like a bird of prey. The thumping got louder as it began to descend, right in the middle of Malik's dusty street. Cars screeched to a halt. Kids clung to their parents. Everyone stared in stunned silence as the helicopter landed gently, its blades chopping the air with power and precision. Malik took a few steps back, heart pounding. What was happening? From the side door of the aircraft, two figures emerged. A tall man in a fitted navy suit and a young woman in an elegant white dress. Both looked polished, successful, and strangely familiar. Their eyes scanned the crowd, searching. And then, they found him. They smiled. Malik? The man called out, walking forward. Malik hesitated, hands still clutching the garden hose. Yes, he replied, unsure. The woman stepped closer, her voice trembling with emotion. You probably don't remember us, but we never forgot you. Malik blinked. He studied their faces. Something about the woman's eyes, the shape of the man's smile. Then it clicked. Lena, he whispered. Kai. They nodded in unison, eyes glistening with tears that a soft gasp escaped Malik's lips. He hadn't seen them since that rainy night so many years ago, just two hungry, scared children huddled in the corner booth of an old diner. "We looked for you for years," Lena said, stepping forward. "We wanted to say thank you. You saved us that night, not just with food, but with hope. You treated us like human beings when no one else would." Kai added, "You gave us the strength to walk into that shelter. That moment, your kindness, it changed the course of our entire lives." The crowd around them was silent, watching in awe. "We were adopted by a wonderful family a few months after that," Lena continued. "They gave us stability, education, and love. And we never forgot the man who gave us our first taste of kindness." Malik's throat tightened. I don't know what to say." Kai smiled, stepping forward and gently taking Malik's hand. "Say you'll let us do for you what you once did for us." The young woman reached into her bag and pulled out a thick folder. "We've started a global nonprofit called Roots and Wings. We help orphans and foster children around the world with food, education, housing, everything. And we want to dedicate our newest center in your honor." Malik stared, stunned. "In my honor?" Lena nodded. "The Malik Johnson Center for Hope. Built in the very town where our story began." Tears welled up in Malik's eyes as he looked around. Neighbors now filming, wiping their own eyes. This couldn't be real. And Kai added with a grin, "We want to offer you a place with us. A warm home. A role in the foundation, if you want it. No more struggling alone. Let us take care of you now." Malik looked down at his worn shoes, then up at the shining helicopter behind them. For so long, he'd lived a quiet, unnoticed life, thinking his good deeds were just small sparks in the dark. But those sparks had started a fire that he stepped forward, arms open. Lena and Kai embraced him tightly, holding on like they never wanted to let go. The crowd around them erupted into applause. Some cried, others cheered. The sky above was bright and clear, as if even the heavens were smiling. Malik didn't need riches, didn't need fame. He had something greater, living proof that kindness truly comes back. The sun blazed high above as the helicopter's blades sliced through the warm summer air, stirring dust and leaves into a whirlwind. The entire neighborhood had gathered now, a crowd lining the sidewalks, eyes wide, mouths slightly open in disbelief, and no one could quite believe what they were seeing. Malik Johnson, the quiet, gray-haired man who had lived alone in the small, creaky house at the corner for years, was being led toward a helicopter by two strikingly successful young people. They held his arms with reverence, guiding him, gently like he was royalty, and in a way, he was. Lena and Kai walked proudly beside him, no longer the starving, trembling children who had once stumbled into his life. They now looked like the kind of people who changed the world for a living. The crowd whispered, "Is that the Malik? What's going on? Are those famous people?" Phones were raised. Cameras clicked. Tears were wiped away, even by those who barely knew him. For all the years he had quietly helped others, with spare change, warm food, and gentle words. The world was finally watching him. And then came the moment that left even Malik breathless. As they approached the helicopter, Lena gently placed a hand on his shoulder and handed him a sleek black folder. "We're not just taking you on a trip, Malik," she said with a smile. "We're taking you to your new home." He opened the folder, confused. Inside were crisp documents, a deed to a charming countryside estate surrounded by trees and gardens. A home fully paid for, in his name. Also included top-tier medical insurance, a retirement account with monthly deposits, and a letter of welcome from the staff who would be helping him settle in. Malik stared, unable to process it all. I don't understand," he whispered. Kai stepped forward, placing a hand over Malik's. "You've spent your life serving others. Quietly, humbly, giving without asking for anything in return. It's your turn now." Lena added, "You gave us your only meal that night. Your coat, your kindness. That moment planted a seed in our hearts. We've built our lives and our mission around that seed." They looked him in the eyes as the helicopter door opened behind them. "Now, it's our turn to give back. To give you a life of comfort, peace, and love. The life you've always deserved." Tears streamed freely down Malik's weathered face. His lips quivered, but no words came out. He was a man who'd spent decades offering warmth, expecting nothing. And now, For the first time in so long, he was the one being cared for. The neighborhood stood silently as Lena and Kai helped him into the helicopter. A few children waved. Some neighbors clapped. Others called out his name with pride. It was a farewell, but also a celebration. As the aircraft began to lift off the ground, Malik turned and looked out the window. The streets below had never seemed so beautiful. Dozens of people stood waving, capturing the moment on their phones, smiles stretched across their faces. Old Mr. Reyes from down the block saluted him. Mrs. Collins from the corner bakery held her hand over her heart, and Malik just wept, not from sadness, but from gratitude, from awe, from the overwhelming feeling that maybe, just maybe, he had done something right in this world. Up, and away. The helicopter soared into the sky, taking him not just to a new home, but into a new chapter of life. He didn't leave with suitcases full of clothes or piles of possessions. He left with something far richer, the love of two souls he once saved, who never forgot what he did for them. Because sometimes the smallest act, a sandwich, a coat, a few kind words, can spark a transformation that ripples through time, across lives, and back to your own doorstep. As the helicopter disappeared into the horizon, a final message lingered in the minds of everyone who watched. Never underestimate the power of a small act of kindness. You never know who you're feeding or how they might come back to feed your soul. If this story touched your heart, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more inspiring true stories. Sparkles, remember, even the smallest act of kindness can come full circle in the most unexpected ways. Turn on the bell so you never miss a moment that could change your perspective or your life. See you in the next story.